wouldn't normally join a club that would have me as a member. However...
You can turn LEDs down to have that effect combined with some kind of ketamine trip, can't you? Consider
And the video is about 7 seconds long, and it finishes with me saying a rude word. Did you hear that? Hi listeners, this is Mark here. You join us for another weekly podcast episode from Single Track Magazine. I'm joined here in our virtual studio by Charlie.
Hello, guys.
And Benji.
Hello there.
Brilliant. Now, coming up in this episode, we've got a lot of things to talk about. But first of all, before we start, I'd like to announce the sponsor of this episode. So, guys, how does a free case of beer sound to you?
It's pretty close to my top list of my favourite things.
Well, it sounds good to me, especially since each of us has exactly that in front of us right now. Our pals at Beer 52 are offering you, our listeners, a free case of 8 craft beers. Simply go to www.beer52.com/singletrack and cover the meagre postage cost of just £5.95 to claim your free case. So that's beer52.com/singletrack. We'll put a link to that in the show notes for this episode and also in the podcast story on our website. Now, Charlie, Benji, did you know that Beer 52 is the biggest beer club in the world?
Wow. I wouldn't normally join a club that would have me as a member. However, I think the entry requirement's rather reasonable here, and I passed. I'm in.
Well, each month they send their members a case of beer from a different part of the world, and I can vouch for that personally, as I am a genuine paid-up member, and I've been for quite a while. So far, I've received beers from 40 different countries, spanning 5 continents, from big juicy pale ales to delicious sumptuous stouts. You can try the best beers from across the world with the UK's #1 beer club. And if dark beer's not your thing, you can choose the light-only case, which is something I did myself after a month or two. I've even paused my sub for a month after I'd been ill for a week, and I'd built up a serious enough stockpile for my wife to complain that she didn't have enough space in the fridge for her kale. So you also get Ferment magazine in each box and some snacks. And even if after all that you're still unsatisfied, you can simply pause or cancel anytime. So that's beer52.com/singletrack to claim your free case now. That's the sponsor's message out of the way. So in order to mark this special beer-flavoured episode, we're each going to crack a can from our Beer 52 box during this episode. So, before we crack on, I've chosen a modern pale ale, hazy golden juice. I'm reading it from the can. Beer Bibliotech, Here Comes the Sun. I thought it was quite appropriate today because it's absolutely hooning down outside. The weather is shocking. So I've gone for a beer that says, Here Comes the Sun. What have you got, Charlie? Which one have you picked?
I picked Hazy Day Hero Hazy Session IPA. It's Norwegian, and I picked this one because it's got an alien and the sea's on fire and there's mountains and spaceships. It's got a giant eye, which looks a little bit sexy. And I picked it. I'm cheap. I'm shallow. I love marketing, and show me, put an alien on it. I'll probably buy it.
Ben, what are you choosing?
Well, I've not opened mine yet. Look, I've just defocused. Look, reveal.
All right, listeners, we've got a video going on in the background here.
Well, always, just like being the knife. Be careful. So I don't know what it is. The box.
What's in the box?
Should I just pull one out, see what we get? Right.
Wow. Unboxing
Stuff
on a podcast.
Can you see that?
Go on, Ben, describe what have you got there.
Well, I have a greetings card and I have a story of craft beer. What would you call that? A novella? Fiction, wouldn't it? Well, there we go.
It's a book.
There's 2
snacks
or something. Sour cream and chive, crunchy peas.
Ooh, crunchy peas.
Is this working? And all right, tandoor chili. Right, good.
What's that thing that happens on podcasts, or there's the audio phenomenon where people have like eargasms? It's
ASMR.biz or something, yeah.
Is that, yeah.
Right.
Go on.
It's lucky.
It's like, I don't know. I've got a solar flare.
Is it kind of rainbowy and quite trippy? The graphics?
Wow. Yeah. So that's a rainbow. Since Ben's actually just staring at it and not actually describing it in an audio fashion.
I'm trying to read it. I think that's one of the exciting things about when you get these boxes is trying to find out where it is. What is it called? How much alcohol's in it?
Yeah.
Where's it from?
Just nobody likes dead air on a podcast, Benji.
I like Solid Air. That was John Martin album. Should we get that on in the background? Is he still alive?
I've got no idea what you just said.
Oh, well, everyone go and listen to that after you've done this. If you're on Spotify, type in John Martin with a Y. I'm going to go for Gorilla.
Gorilla. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, we have to choose the appropriate points in this podcast because I think we need to move on from beer to actually some mountain bike news. But yeah, it has to be said, it's actually, what time is it now? It's 10 to 2 in the afternoon.
It's 8:30 in the morning.
It's beer o'clock.
Funnily enough, just to put this in context when this was recorded, we've just literally found out that Liz Truss has resigned. So that's where we are in the week. So there you go. You can root yourself in that for a timeline.
What better time to open a beer?
Yeah, what better time to open a beer? That's true. Right, okay. Before we do that, I've got my microphone here. Just bear with me because I'm just going to pull this down, and I am actually going to be the first one of us to open this beer. I'm going to do it right next to the microphone. Okay. So this is my beer bibliotech. I hope it's. Did you hear that? That was right.
I think I thought I watched something that was voted the #1 most satisfying sound of the world or something. A can opening or something.
Can you hear it? There we go. Right, I've opened it. I'm not going to drink it now. We're going to move on to our first actual relevant talking point. Do get carried away when beer comes into the building, it has to be said. Right, this week, let's talk about some of the news that's broken this week that isn't to do with our government collapsing. Ben, what was the biggest news story of the week?
Unfortunately, it'll be Revolution Bike Park announcing they're going to have to close in January for, is it larch disease or something like that? And I think that's going to compulsory felling of everything that's there. I think they're still going at the moment, so don't think they're closed. I think they'll need as many visitors as they can get. But yeah, until January, I think it is.
Yeah, that's quite tragic.
Mid-Wales.
Especially because they're actually up for one of our awards.
Yeah.
So, and on the topic of awards, it's actually really, really important everybody heads to our website this week because we've got how many days left of voting?
Well, depending when this goes out, it finishes on Tuesday, 25th of October, I think. So we've got a weekend and a bit.
We'll have this out before then.
The single track awards is sort of like the democracy that works, which is quite refreshing. You know, if you're bored of normal democracy, we have the single track awards where you vote and it makes a difference.
I'm trying to think, yeah. So singletrackworld.com/reader awards. That's the one, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, I've just had a mouthful of beer. I didn't mean to do that. It was just instinct.
I've got to go and pick up a kid, do the school run in. Anyway, it's not unusual. Not that unusual. Yeah,
so the awards, get over to our website and vote. It's important you do that because these are your awards. These are the awards voted for by the readers. We don't vote for these. Or we do, but just as normal punters like you. So get over there. You've got a few days left and help us pick a winner.
I don't think I have voted, actually. Have you voted, Charlie? Like, properly?
Yeah,
I did
properly. Yeah, totally voted. Most innovative, that Dijon custard coloured Trek with the silent motor that makes me look like I can cycle up hills like an 18-year-old. Got my vote.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. When are we giving out the prizes for the awards anyway? Charlie, can you tell us about that?
When are we doing that? No, I can't. I have no idea. I imagine we're going to the Trades Club in Hebden Bridge. We're not?
Right,
okay.
Just let me explain, Charlie. We're going to the Kendal Mountain Festival.
Oh, okay.
Remember? We talked about this.
Okay.
Kendal Mountain Festival, mid-November. Not
19th.
sure what 19th. And so we'll be up there on Bike Night.
Trek Bike Night.
Indeed, Trek Bike Night at the Kendal Mountain Festival. Get your tickets now, get up there and come and join us on Bike Night where we'll be handing out a whole bunch of awards to the winners of our awards. So yeah, I think Amanda's actually in the middle of designing them right now and they're looking fairly cool. So anyway, let's move on from that. What else is happening this week? What's happening right now in Utah, Ben?
There'll be people jumping off lumps, won't there? Rampage. I have lost track of where it is in Utah because they keep moving it around, don't they? But it's back at where it's been before, but not last year's venue. They all look like Roadrunner, don't they? They all look like kind of Warner Brothers aesthetic and doing similar kind of things, really, aren't they?
Charlie, how would you describe Rampage to somebody who's never come across it before?
It's what kids doodled whilst they weren't paying attention at school 30 years ago. Is now reality. They'd have doodled impossible backflips off mountains and down cliffs. It's now reality. But I'm not sure how I feel about it. I might be a bit anti it. It's bloody dangerous. It's really bloody dangerous. And there's a guy, Paul Basso
Evil Knievel.
Oh, Evil Knievel. Yeah. We can blame him. This is where it all started.
yeah.
But it's Paul chap. He paralysed himself in 2015. They made a movie about it called Any One of Us. But I remember seeing a picture of him on a stretcher or in a bed, and he threw a shaka, which is stick your little finger out, big thumb out. It's kind of Hawaiian surfing thing for like, hang loose, right on, brother. And I'm like, and he had his wristbands, his passes and stuff still on him. And he's, it's not right on, mate. You're stuffed. And it's like, and I think, you know, where do you draw a line? It's really effing dangerous. It's great entertainment. And, you know, from your sofa where it's totally safe. And I'm sure people are happy with the sales of a sports drink that gives me hideous cramp. And so it's a win-win everywhere, apart from people who are almost dying or having their lives cut short in, you know, losing their mobility. At what point does someone go, and it's the same with Nazaré, people surfing 100-foot waves. You're like, that's really effing dangerous as well. And, you know, where do you draw a line? It's people's choice. But this is not, this isn't someone climbing Everest. This is someone putting on a show for a sports drink. And so I'm in two minds. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I enjoy watching it anymore.
I have a great deal of sympathy for that viewpoint too. And I suspect there's many out there that also share that view. It worries me every year, is this going to be the year where there's another accident? Maybe we do sound old when we say this, I guess. But, I mean, the whole point of Rampage is that, just to give a really quick sort of thumbnail idea of what it's about, in case you don't know, sponsored riders head to the desert in Utah, sponsored by Red Bull, they're going to say it, and they go into the desert on the natural trails and they pick out and create and dig lines from the top of these enormous sort of, they're not mountains, are they? It's kind of just all very lumpy in the desert, isn't it?
If you're from Surrey, it's a mountain.
Yeah, and they do a run. They do a single run that involves jumping across canyons, doing backflips, and all the sort of stuff you see at Crankworks, I guess. Except this is in the desert, and this is on real rocks and real canyons and things, and they get scored on how good their run is. But there's people picking, each rider can go and carve out their own line. And every year there's somebody trying to do something bigger and better than before. And yeah, like Charlie said, there has been serious accidents in the past, life-changing accidents. And yeah, and I'm with you, Charlie. I'm not sure sport is meant to be like that. You know, we're meant to push the limits and everything, but maybe in a more controlled, safer environment than the desert of Utah. But yeah, it's interesting. Ben, what are your thoughts? Are we just being old?
It's not as dangerous as it used to be, which I think is, I think the way it has gone that way, where they're now there for days, aren't they? And they are essentially building crankworks out of soil. What's it called? I don't know, really. It's loads of sandbags and stuff. So it's not, I find it quite hard to watch because it is so long. If you watch the live broadcast, it is unreal. It's like, oh my God, we're just looking at flags whilst the guy from Dodgeball commentates.
Is it really? Oh, I mean,
no, but it feels like that
total
kind
U-turn
drivel. But the highlight, they advertise the highlights show you can watch. That's 2.5 hours. I wouldn't watch it live because it's just like a turgid, weirdly. I don't know. It's the same as roadies killing themselves with PEDs, isn't it? As soon as you introduce competition to push bikes, people's health goes down the drain. It's one of those ironies.
So anyway, you can see, you can actually, if you want to see what it's all about, if you're into it, if you're not and you're just curious, you can, if you follow our Instagram account at Single Track Magazine, then we've got a man on the ground doing stories and reels. And we've also got a photographer out there who's going to be coming back with some photographic stories that we'll publish in a later date. I'm not sure when that's going out. But yeah, head over to our social media feed on Instagram at Single Track Magazine. And I want everybody to go and do that. If you're not following us on Instagram, please go and do it. Right, let's move on from that. Ben, you've actually published this week. It's the right time of year, a Bike Light Roundup review.
Yeah. We're kind of putting out a series of Sunday buyer's guides. I think they come out on Sunday usually, and they're kind of topical for the time of year. So the bike lights was the one to do at the moment.
Can I suggest an alternative view? People think bike lights, winter. Nah, bike lights, summer. Ride all the way through the night. It's warm. The puddles are made of air. It's brilliant. Your gloves, the gloves are less than 20 millimeters thick, so you can actually,
I personally haven't. I think I rode last year. I haven't done a night ride this year, but it's collated previous buying of the best lights we've had in the past couple of years, really, and rounded them up and pointed people at the right direction and what to look for.
Spoiler alert, then, Ben. What was the best one out of the bunch for you?
It depends on your price, doesn't it? I mean, I think they're a lot of money, so I probably would just say, depending on your current income at the moment, I think you could probably get away with anything of 1,000 lumens and above. It depends what your ruddy mates ride, doesn't it? So
it's an arms
if you're
race.
right at the back on 1,000 lumens, you'll be knackered if you're at the front with 1,000 lumens. So you can still get out there.
In our Cheap Things Tuesday, which is a story about cheap things that comes out on a Tuesday, there's a bike light in there called the Blackburn Dayblazer. Blackburn Dayblazer, am I close?
Yeah,
Dayblazer.
I think, yep.
It's an 1,100 lumens. It's 30 quid at the moment from somewhere. Go and have a look at the Cheap Things Tuesday and click through.
All right, we'll stick a link for that in the show notes.
And the reason I love that is because 30 years ago-ish, I spent a lot of money at the time, about 25 quid in a little specialised unit. It is flickable from 2.5 watts to 5 watts, which was not enough for anything. But I recall it used more Duracell batteries in an hour than I earned in an hour as a chef. And it still didn't light your way. And I think if you can get 1,100 lumens, which is the same as my first big exposure, some, 15 plus years ago, 1,100 lumens for 30 quid. You can get out there, have fun, and go and disturb the scary people.
Depends
who
what
hang
you do on a
around at
night ride, doesn't it? I mean, my night rides are not very long. It's like, what's the shortest they can be before we can bin it and go to the pub, basically. And we have a 70-minute rule. It's like, we've got to get to 70 minutes, and then everyone looks right, we're going. And then, so that one, I think probably the 30 quid one, I think it does 1,000 lumens for about an hour. So that's probably all right. If you like people who, it's like 30, 40k night rides, which is just like bananas, you're going to need serious...
power.
Don't know. Money. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Benji, Mark, let me
You need
ask you this.
serious psychological help as well.
The amazing thing with bike, and I think one of the things is we're kind of exceptional in as much as the work we do means we get to spend time on bikes. If you're stuck in an ordinary office, which isn't full of bikes, most offices are not full of bikes, and you get your riding time in the winter has got to be in the dark or on a wet Saturday or Sunday. And so good set of bike lights can really expand your cycling, but it also expands what you see, what the world will expose to you. So I was once single speeding around the perimeter of a golf course in Bournemouth. I won't tell you where it is because I don't know if it was strictly a legal trail. And I remember whizzing across a monosexual. It was he had a leather cap with chains on it, Freddie Mercury moustache, leather trousers, not done up, and he was monosexualing by himself. No one else wanted to join in.
Did he have a light?
He didn't have a light. I did, and with being a single speed, he heard nothing before I almost ran him over and disturbed his evening's activity. So, Benji, Mark, have you ever has night riding ever revealed anything to you?
I've certainly come across my fair share of steamed up car windows. I think that's a fairly common one, isn't it?
Is that because of poor air conditioning?
It must be, yeah. I don't know what they were doing in there. Maybe boiling a kettle. Maybe that's what they're doing in the cars. I seem to come across quite a few on night rides around here. I don't know what that's about. But yes, night ride, it does transform your riding. It is a complete transformation. I always actually loved it, back in the day when we had those lights, those Blackburn lights that were 2.5 watts and 5 watts. The thing was that was bright in those days. And the thing was, it gave such a sort of small window of light. It kind of made you feel like you were going an awful lot faster than you actually were. So it kind of made night riding exciting. One of the things I miss about night riding is that the lights these days are so good it turns night to day. And then you don't get that same element of imminent danger that you're about to just go over the bars. And that kind of speed feeling that you get going through the trees.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyway.
Well, you can turn LEDs down to have that effect combined with some kind of ketamine trip, can't you? Because it's like shimmer, don't they? So you get like best of both worlds.
Or just don't secure the bracket correctly, so it suddenly dips down at the ground, and then you can recreate the can't see anything 1990s feeling.
Well, you start looking at your front tyre knobs because they go all zoetropic, don't they? And,
it looks like your wheels going
crash
backwards.
off into a tree.
Yeah.
But I will night ride at some point. It's just like you say, it's when you haven't been able to get enough out during the nominal daylight. Crowbar.
Right. Anyway, at this juncture, I'm going to tell you about my beer. This is the Bibliotech beer. I've drunk half of it already, actually. I don't know, but tasting notes on this one. Just very hoppy, very pale, really cloudy. I'd say this is very sessiony. I would drink a lot of those if I had the opportunity.
Would you like me to update you on my beer?
No, I think we'll go for the next talking point, and then we will bookmark these talking points with beer.
I finished it and moved on.
All right. Right, okay. Next thing on the list. What's going on with subscriptions, Charlie?
Subscriptions, members, we love you. You're brilliant people, and you literally Single Track would not exist, would not be possible without your support. And so we have a really, really, really cool offer to encourage you, to entice you into the world of Single Track membership. There's this beautiful, wonderful, exceptional product called a timber bell. So it's like a little kettlebell that clamps onto your bars. It has a lever, an uppy-downy lever, just like a dropper post. And you can turn it off, and it stays off. But when you see ramblers ahead, you flick it down. And then it goes ting-a-ling-a-ling. Even works on road bikes if you wiggle the bars or hit a rough patch. And the beautiful thing with this bell is ramblers will hear you from 200 metres out. They get so much warning, and then you're making this beautiful sound where they're actually quite jolly when you pass. What's more, because the ramblers aren't zigzagging, you remember you come up to them and they're like, oh, I'm going to put the dog one side of the path and the lead across it, me the other, then me and the dog are going to swap over, then I'm going to get the kids to join in and we'll just zigzag around and everyone's upset. None of that. And so from a performance point of view, forget harmony and love, sod that. From a performance point of view, you get to ride trails faster because it clears ramblers like Moses and the Dead Sea of Ramblers, whatever that was. And so it's a beautiful product. It's my favourite product in the world ever. It's $27.99, but it's not. It's free. So if you become a Single Track member and use the code I'm about to read out, FreeBell03, stick that in the code box. You get a free bell with your Single Track membership. Single Track membership comes in 2 shapes. One is digital only, that's 20 quid. And then there's print and digital, 39. But we'd be crazy to give away a 28 quid bell with a 20 quid membership. But hey, we are. So come and join us. Go over to Single Track World, click the join us thing and put in the code FreeBell03. And I will myself, using my own hands, I will send you the most wonderful, lovely free love product ever.
Brilliant. At this juncture, we're going to take a short break and we're going to go over and hear from Hannah, who chatted to me earlier this week about the things that she discovered down at the Bespoked Handbuilt Bike Show, which took place last weekend. So over to you, Hannah.
So I was at Bespoked, it's a handmade bicycle show, at the weekend. And it made me have thoughts that I'd like to organise. And I thought, talking about them might help organise them. And it might work out that it's kind of interesting to listen to. But you might have to edit out some bits. So.
It's the best kind of discussion. It's one where the other person doesn't know what the hell is going to happen.
I guess the first thing is that it's under new owners.
It used to be in Bristol, didn't it? Bespoke.
Once upon a time.
Yeah, and it's moved now.
Well, it moved last year to Harrogate, and then became under the new ownership. And so this year it was in the Lee Valley Velodrome in London. And actually, it's going to probably move again. Certainly is moving again a bit. So next year, it's going to be in Leipzig.
Whoa, it's going out of the UK.
Yeah.
Right, well, just rewind a minute. Before we get into it, for anybody who's no idea what Bespoked is, and there's no reason why they shouldn't know, because you've done a heck of a lot of coverage on this in the last few years and also this year already. So we could just say, go to our website and have a look. But just in a couple of sentences, outline it for us.
It's a celebration of handmade bicycles and handmade bicycle bits and the people that make them. So it happens to be in the UK, and I think once upon a time it had an emphasis on being people from the UK, but Peter and Josh have made deliberate efforts to make that worldwide builders that come to the UK, or indeed to Europe next year. So, yeah, does that explain it?
I think, yeah, pretty much. And people should definitely go and have a look on our website right now to get the fine detail.
So I guess that in itself is like part of my philosophical thing. Like, to some extent, almost all bicycles are handmade. Like, even the mass-produced ones that are made in Taiwan, there's usually some hands from a person that are laying up that carbon, for example. But how do you define the difference between handmade in that kind of... I don't want to use the word artisan, but I guess that's the most appropriate word. Like, you don't want to devalue people who have skills at making things. So, for example, Orange Bikes was there this year.
Now, that surprised me. And I think it surprised you. You asked the question, didn't you, in one of our Instagram reels. Why were they there?
Yeah, they were there because their bikes are made by hand. And there's only actually about 8 folk that are welding them together. Their full suspension bikes are made by hand in the UK. And I guess they're making them to a recipe, aren't they? Those people that are making them are following instructions, and they are making a frame that somebody has designed. So they're sort of doing what they're told, which is different to the person that's in their shed that decides to file a joint this way rather than that way or whatever. But they are still making them by hand. And that gives them the capacity in-house to do things like the adaptive bike or their Strange series of like in-house development bikes. So that's kind of, I feel like they're on the cusp. Like, if there's a spectrum of handmade where kind of not really handmade, but yes, are your carbon fibre bikes in Taiwan. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have your shed builder that's making 1 or 2 bikes a year very slowly, and does everything by hand, possibly with a file and no machinery. And then Orange Bikes are kind of just in a big shed. That's how they put it. Our shed is just bigger than yours.
Yeah, I guess. So presumably there's a line, and where would that line be drawn?
Well, I think that's something that some of the handmade bike shows around the world have dabbled and struggled with, because the money is in the big bike manufacturers that are churning them out. And those are the people that can kind of afford to pay for a stand at a trade show and maybe support a show like this. But it's not really what it's about, is it? Because they can also afford to go to Eurobike. So, yeah, I think the lines are drawn as the show organisers see fit. But I know that Peter was keen to have Orange Bikes there because they do some interesting stuff in their manufacturing process. And I guess at one point they were a small shed builder, and then they have just grown into a bigger shed. Maybe that's a measure of success. Maybe that's what you want, is those people, those companies, like, I guess I'd put maybe Kotick and Stanton into that kind of group as well. They're bike companies that started off doing something small and grew. They're not quite the niche that they once were. So it's a measure of success, and maybe you want them to support those people who are just churning out frames at a much slower rate now. So, yeah, I don't know. So that was one of my, it's kind of interesting. And what value do we place on it? What value do we place on the skills that are involved in making a bike? Is it wrong to devalue those people that are making them in factories to instruction as compared to a person that's following their own instructions? Does that make any sense?
It kind of does. I mean, it's a bit existential, isn't it, really?
It is. I was feeling quite existential. Yeah. Maybe it's the cold and flu remedies, but,
No, it's an interesting thought process as to the value. For some reason, I'm minded about wheel building and how there are machines that now just build wheels, and they build really good wheels, but then there are wheel builders out there, and that really is an art. Building a wheel is almost... I've done it in the past, and I've treated it almost like a meditation. I won't say that my wheels are particularly great, but it was really nice to build it. Ride your own wheels. It adds something else to it. And I think that's the thing with when you realise your bike is hand-built by somebody, it feels different when you ride it. There's something about the fact that somebody that perhaps you know of the person. Maybe that's it. Maybe the thing about the hand-built bike thing is it's about the provenance of it. It's about knowing who did it. Maybe that's the thing that you don't get with manufactured bikes, is knowing exactly who made it for you.
Yeah, and there's something in there about short supply chains as well, I think. Like, I don't think it's just about a sort of spiritual, this feels different because I know the person that made it. I think there's a sort of practical societal impact there on having a short supply chain, on knowing the person that built the thing, on knowing that it's just from down the road or relatively from down the road. And from having a spread of skills as well. Like, when all the supply chains fell apart in the pandemic, it kind of highlighted the fragility of our current setup. And you kind of can imagine a world in which you couldn't get something welded or CNC'd or whatever in the Far East, and so you'd have to get it made closer to home. And does that capacity exist here? So I think it is important to have those things and to support those things close to home. Not in a kind of Brexity way, but just in a sustainability way.
So have you got any pointers then, if anyone's listening going, yeah, I get the sentiment here. Where do you start? Where would you go?
Well, so I think I might start by just going to the show, because like I can't afford a bespoke bicycle made for me, and I imagine a lot of people can't. But by going to the show, buying a ticket and talking to those bike builders and parts makers, you're like validating them. You're showing them an interest. Yeah, they spend a lot of effort and time in making these things. So yeah, I think we should show interest in them and appreciation. And then the few people that can afford to buy these things, like Tom Howard, he doesn't seem to be able to resist. Those people will keep buying those things that catch their eye. But the rest of us kind of keep people's souls ticking along in the meantime. Yeah, and I heard that the velodrome cost 50 grand for 3 days. They got some generous support from SRAM, which meant that they were able to charge exhibitors the same sort of price as they'd been charged in other venues. But I mean, that is, what do you call it when you book at a restaurant? Cover charge.
Cover charge.
You know, it's a very steep cover charge. And then you've got the cost of coming to the show with your bikes, whether that's in a van or in an aeroplane or whatever. And so Peter and Josh had done a lot of work in making display stands that you could hire, so that you could put your bike in a bike box on a plane and turn up, and you didn't have to have a great big 3D stand thing going on as well. Yeah, so that made a lot of sense. But yeah, it's still a significant investment to come over. There was Prova bikes there, come over from Australia.
Crikey. Did they have an award for the longest travelled?
No, I nearly gave them the best mountain bike award.
Well, that's the thing we should mention, isn't it? Because you weren't just there to take in the sights of the hand-built show. You were there to be a judge.
I was.
What did you judge?
Which was really hard. I had to judge the best mountain bike prize. So, and I'm in the process of writing up that kind of process that I went through of thought and some of the ones that nearly made it and why they didn't make it on my list and that kind of thing. It was really hard. I had to take it very seriously. I did take it very seriously, and it took me all day on Friday to decide who I was going to give the awards to. So to us, that might just seem a bit like, well, it's just it's not even a rosette. It was a diner plug that they got. It was a very diner plug in a sort of candlestick thing. It was all very phallic looking, but there wasn't any prize, like money or anything like that attached to the prize.
No,
it's just prestige. But it was actually very meaningful to a lot of the brands that were there, and there were a lot of people that were a bit sad that they didn't win it or that I didn't choose them, and because effectively that lets them say in marketing stuff, we won the best mountain bike at Bespoke, which is quite a big deal, especially if you're a small brand that can't afford to pay for advertising in print or digital media.
So I can hear everybody listening right now, and they're screaming into their smart speakers and mobiles. They're saying, but who won?
Who won? The Ra 12 was the bike that I chose.
Right, you're going to have to paint us an oral picture.
Paint you a picture. It was very red and shiny, but that's not why I chose it. It's a full suspension bike. They did have a Ra full suspension bike at the show last year, but this one had some little incremental changes. So there's a bit more travel. It had a little flip chip in it so that you could put a 27.5 wheel in the back. It also had another little chip so you could alter the suspension ratio on it, which I thought were kind of things that you might expect from a production bike.
So what made it stand out against all the other worthy candidates? Why did that one win for you?
It was a mixture. So it was the technical features that it offered the rider, along with the complexity of the construction. There's a lot of different, it's a bit like the bake-off. There's a lot of different skills going into making that bike and a lot of parts being made in-house.
So I'm going to assume you took some pictures. So
yes.
For the listeners' benefit now, can they go to the website now and see pictures of this?
By the time that you have edited this and we have had the conversation and I will have finished writing it, yeah, there'll be pictures then.
So there we go. If you want to see what Hannah's talking about, then head to the website.
The question of marketing and the cost of coming to the show was justified by a lot of these brands by, well, this is my opportunity to access the media, because otherwise the media won't take any notice of me because I can't pay to play. Which, being the media that has to pay the bills, keep the lights on, I kind of felt like, sort of stuck in the middle here, because I understand where they're coming from. They're frustrated that they can't get coverage, but equally, we know where we're coming from in that we need brands to pay for advertising.
True.
Or we won't exist.
Yes, sometimes it's a really difficult balance. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have Fresh Goods Friday, isn't it? Fresh Goods Friday is not pay to play, no matter what anybody thinks. And it always has been, and deliberately so. I mean, how many times do we get a press release or you get an email from some brand somewhere that we've never spoken to or dealt with, and they'll say, we've got a product here and we think you'd be really interested in it. How much would it cost to feature in Fresh Goods?
Oh, God, yeah.
I said, nothing, just send it. And usually you can sort of, you can anticipate their incredulity when you say to them, just send it. We'll put it in Fresh Goods. But yeah, it's such a difficult thing, isn't it, for small brands to get the exposure that they need.
I did feel like this relationship meant that it's really important that shows like Bespoked happen, and that the industry needs to find ways to make sure that they continue, because I think that the bike industry would be a much sadder place without the kind of innovation and creativity that you get.
In conclusion, we need to go again.
We need to go again.
And so does everybody else who's listening.
Yes. And we need all the benefactors like SDG and SRAM both gave quite significantly to make the show happen. You know, we need those kind of industry people to keep doing that. It's fairly intangible what the return on investment might be for them, I imagine. But yeah, it's a good thing that they do it.
Yes.
And I think it's a really, I think people that maybe haven't been to the show won't appreciate that it's not just about the bikes and like trying to fill an order book or something like that. I think very few bikes are sold via the show. It's more about creating those relationships and chatting to the builders and the builders chatting to each other and just sort of appreciating the different people.
It's its own community, isn't it? It's the power of community.
It is, and really importantly, I think it's out of the silos of it being a mountain bike show or a road bike show, because there are all different sorts of bikes there. And it was quite apparent to me that there are different cultures within cycling, and that it's healthy for the different disciplines to meet and kind of learn from each other.
So there we go. That's really interesting. No,
well, I hope
generally.
it is to somebody.
So next year it's in Leipzig.
Next year is in Leipzig, and then it's going to move to spring.
Right.
Rather than it being an autumn show.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Right, so head to our website, look at all the stories, get all the info you need, and start planning ahead and booking your tickets for Leipzig next year.
Yes. Oh, and I have to give a sort of special mention and accolade or something to Peter and Josh, who've put the show together this year, because they went to great lengths to be more inclusive and increase the diversity of people at the show and displaying at the show. So it wasn't all just white men in sheds. And it was really, really noticeable that there was a lot more people there, a lot of really interesting discussions happening. And yeah, a really like inclusive and cool vibe going on. But yeah, I know that took a lot of effort, so I do appreciate them.
Okay, so that's the Bespoked Bike Show for you guys. So make sure that next year you check that out. Well worth a visit. Right, back into the room, back with Benji and Charlie. Charlie, you've drunk one can of beer. I think now is the time to tell us what you want another.
Yeah, I would tell you about the first can of beer, but it's gone now. The graphics were awesome. It was lovely. I'm now on the Gorilla. I have to put my old man glasses on to read. It's from Two Tribes. It's compatible with campfires. It's a hazy pale. It's 5.0. And the graphic, I chose this one because the graphics look a bit like the graphics on a Kotick.
Wow. Okay, there you go. There's a shoehorned in a bike reference. Well done, Charlie.
And it's nice and beery. Yes, I like it. It's light. It's really sessionable, as was the other one, evidently. And yeah, I'm probably
Right.
I'll be fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
Productivity won't be affected.
Hey guys, I was down in London a few weeks ago, and I was walking to a podcast summit. It was like a meeting of podcasters, ironically enough. And as I was walking down the street, you know what caught my eye?
No, I thought, is this a joke?
A short person with an umbrella.
Hey!
Ah, the bumtish. Sorry, I've been saving that joke up. Right, okay, no, actually, what's happened is I've got a social dilemma after that trip. And the social dilemma is what's happened to my social media feed since I came back from London. I think Charlie knows what's coming. I want to just talk about my Instagram feed. Now, before I went to London, I had just an old, and we're not talking about the Single Track Mag Instagram account, which everybody should go and follow. That again, that's at Single Track Magazine. Go and follow it. But I'm talking about my own personal one, which is, you know what? I'm not even going to actually say what it is, because this is not about promoting my social media feed. Ironically, it's about everything but. Because before I went to London, my Instagram account, I had about 450 followers, and it had been stuck like that for years. And, you know, it's full of pictures of me playing the drums, the occasional bike thing, you know, the usual sort of personal guff. Anyway, I went to London and I checked in at a hotel in Tavistock Square. I went to my room and it was during the day, so it was a weekday. So I thought, I'm going to check in, I'm going to get some work done. So I fire up my laptop. I put my laptop on the desk. There was a plug right in front of me on the desk. Got out my laptop charger, went to plug it in. It wouldn't fit in the socket because the socket was about an inch above the desk, and I had a MacBook charger. I thought, oh no, there must be another socket in the room. There wasn't. This was the only socket in the room, not even by the sides of the beds. So what am I going to do? I thought, I'm going to go down to reception and ask them. Charlie,
so a MacBook charger is big and
it's got a
awkward,
massive lump attached to it. And I to save weight, I hadn't taken the long extension wire. I just actually, MacBook chargers, you can actually have the 3-pin plug attached to the box, to the actual charger thing. That's what I had. I was stuffed because I needed to plug in, so I thought, I'm going to go down to reception. But before I went, I thought, I'm going to have a really hard job trying to explain this problem to them. So I thought, I'm just going to video it. So I just got my phone out and I just took a video of me trying to plug my laptop charger in. And the video is about 7 seconds long, and it finishes with me saying a rude word. But I thought, this is better when I go down to reception. I can literally just show them my phone. And I did. And to be honest, I went down and they came up with it. They said, oh, we've got an extension for you. And they gave me a wire and it was fixed. Anyway, I decided that this little video, I was going to stick it on my Instagram feed as a reel. So I did. All it is me just trying to plug a charger into a wall socket, failing, and saying a rude word. That's it.
This sounds like the worst television in the world ever.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Do you know where we are 3 weeks later?
Sorry we ever did it.
6.5 million views later. And I've gained 2,500 new followers.
So
it sparked what I can only describe as plug wars. All the 500 comments, 150,000 likes. And in the comments, it's just full of first of all, it's Americans going, haha, stupid plugs, American plugs are the best. And then you've got some Germans going, no, I think you'll find our plugs are the best. And then the Brits going, no, but ours are the safest in the world. Haha, but it didn't help you there. And then some Japanese have come in and said, actually, you're all wrong, our plugs are the best. And it's just turned into some amazing plug wars. But this isn't my dilemma. I mean, I'm now closing on 3,000 followers. My dilemma is that's 2,500 people who are expecting plug-related content from me. I don't know what to do now.
I've got worse news for you. I think whilst you were explaining that, I've just put 7 seconds in, but was it 6 million people?
Yeah.
Right. Basically, you have stolen 11,660 man days from the world. If all those 7 seconds are adding up to 11,666.67 man days, think of what good could have been done instead.
You know what? And this is a lesson I want to get out to the kids. Yeah, hey kids, I struck gold with this irrelevant, stupid plug-related video of 7 seconds. It's got me 6.5 million views. I've gained 2,500 followers, and do you know how much my life has improved because of this? Not a jot.
Are we allowed to say fuck?
I'll beep it, don't worry.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that changes everything. Let's start again.
It'll buff out in the edit, don't worry. Nothing has changed. It's pointless. It's just inane gibberish. And I think about how much time and effort we put into creating content, and then I do a 7-second video of a bloody plug failure. And this happens. I find it incredibly frustrating. But what do I do next? What's my next social media post on that? You know,
I would think you offer your channel to Screwfix, don't you? Let's try and flog it.
Yeah. Anyway,
or say B&Q are interested first.
So, Mark, I'll drop off some bum butter stickers to you if you can put them on all your plugs going forwards. And for every million visits, for every million followers, I'll give you a beer.
The lesson we could take away from it is probably we need to do something that's Because it's about satisfying versus annoying, isn't it? Is that what it is? That kind of vibe on the internet? You get really satisfying things and you get annoying things.
What sort of bike-related equivalent we could do? 7-second video of a failure.
The tyres that don't fit into bike racks is the main thing that annoys me.
We could do that. Well, there's the challenge. If there's any listeners out there got any recommendations of where I should go next with my power plug related following.
It's like a bike provision that doesn't fit the bikes that we have. So bike racks on trains that work on top tubes that I don't have on a bike anymore and stuff like that. It's like good intentioned social infrastructure that works on a vicar's bike from 1940. That's about it.
There we go. I think we've got our social media strategy for the next month completely nailed. Right,
1940s bicycles is our social media strategy. Excellent.
Oh, has either of you got anything else before we wind this inane chat up for this week?
I can't believe we're supposed to talk about something else. I can't think.
We haven't had your beer impression, Ben. What have you got?
I've not opened one yet.
Oh, you've been delaying because you've got a school run to do in a minute, haven't you?
Yeah, they're all 30 mil, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's one tall can in there, but I didn't get that.
So you've had that one.
That's
the best one. You had that one, didn't you, Mark? That's the best. I'll say cover. It's not a cover, is it? Is it a cover? Like an album cover?
The album cover, it's good on there. Yeah, that's Bibliotech. That's a good one.
That's an interesting observation. Now that music's all digital and you don't get to see album covers, I'm now enjoying the art of beer cans in the same way I used to enjoy album covers.
Do you want me to open this? Should I open it with a fizz? A noise?
Do it next to your microphone.
Couldn't go everywhere, couldn't it? Hang on. I've got a glass as well. Can you hear that?
I heard that. That was a good sound. I like that.
Pilsner. All right, good.
Okay.
Modern lager thing.
Right. We need your quick opinion. Come on, quick.
It's warm. It's not actually, because it's in the house, so it's probably about right. It's about 12 degrees on them.
It's worth saying that Benji is wearing a puffer jacket and a woolly bobble hat indoors.
And wool liners and over trousers and wool socks and insulated slippers.
Right, I'm going to wrap this up now. I think we've blathered on enough. I think we've got everything covered. Don't forget to check out that Beer 52 offer. That's beer52.com/single track and go and grab yourself a free box of beer. That's it for us. So I'm going to say goodbye. Goodbye, Charlie.
Goodbye, guys and girls.
Goodbye, Benji.
Au revoir.
All right, join us next week for some more inane chat. Probably with less beer next week.
Boo.